Welcome back to another session where we're talking about the growing demand for managerial talent in analytics. And at UC Davis, you're bringing together data science and business. You're gaining hands-on experience with corporate sponsors across the Bay Area. This MSBA has one of the strongest ROIs of any program in the world, compelling starting salaries. And to find out more, I'm delighted to welcome Eric Duarte McDermott. Eric is the Executive Director of the MSBA at UC Davis. And Henri Genoudet. Henri is in the class of 2025. He did his undergrad in chemical biology at UC Berkeley, has been a research assistant with the USDA, and now, of course, on this great career track with analytics. So lovely to have both of you with us. Eric, perhaps before we dive into the program itself, UC Davis, on the West Coast, we have viewers at Center Court from all over the world. So tell us a little bit about the school, its personality, and then we'll get into the MSBA itself.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us on today. I think it's an important distinction to start first with our school and where the MSBA program is specifically located, because those are two different places. So our school, UC Davis, is located in Northern California, just south of Sacramento. So Sacramento is the state capital of California, for those of you who are not familiar. And we're about, I would say, a 20-minute drive south from Sacramento. But our program, our MSBA program, is located in San Francisco. And we did that for a very strategic reason. We'll probably get into a little bit more of that later, but just we wanted to put our students at the center of innovation and data. So, but overall, the heart, the culture, the soul of the school, I think, is very much student oriented and community oriented. Davis in itself is very much centered around the university. It's not too far from an agricultural backdrop, but within itself, Davis is a community and a college town, and the university is the heart and center of it, and our students are the heart and soul of not only the city, but I would say the community as well.
Mm. Now, the MSBA, as you said, for very strategic reasons, to be
Yes.
right there in San Francisco. And who does the program attract? You've got diverse talent. You've got Henri from a top undergrad school with his STEM background. So, what kind of backgrounds are you typically looking for?
Yeah, so a variety of backgrounds. One, because the way we teach our program, and we teach it for a student to be able to be equipped to go into any industry, but still have those technical skills to be able to not only do well, but thrive. And so within that, we know students come from a number of different backgrounds, and that's what we want to bring into our program. A number of different of ideas, a different thoughts, different experiences. But I think fundamentally, because our program is a highly technical program, we are looking for students that have a quantitative background. So that would be, I think, the biggest thing that we're looking for. If there was anything specifically, it's like, hey, we need one thing, and as far as students to have a pretty good quantitative background. We have a lot of resources in place once they get into the program, but it's easier to teach students programming languages and everything else that goes along with our program when they have a solid foundation in not analytics, but quantitative.
And we started by talking about this tremendous demand for managerial talent in analytics across different industries. So what kind of career aspirations? Tech,
Yeah.
for sure, but I mean healthcare,
Yeah.
supply chain. There are no limits, right?
There isn't. I mean, healthcare, supply chain, fintech, marketing. We're seeing more and more marketing firms saying, "Hey, we're looking for candidates that are well versed in programming languages, R, Python, those kind of programming languages that our program teaches." But yes, many different industries. Usually, some of the bigger, and again, depending on what industry, the job title may evolve, right? So it could be a data analyst, it could be a data scientist, it could be a financial analyst, but that financial analyst means really more on the data side. It could just be an analyst, a data scientist. So our students go into a wide variety of different roles, but within those industries. And it's usually data analytics aligned. Our students even go into consulting. We've had students that have gotten jobs at the Big Four as well. So a number of different industries. Like I said, the job title may kind of evolve depending on industry, but that's relative to what our students usually go into as far as kind of those roles.
Right. Well, Henri, of course, the decision to go back to school, you'd already completed your studies at Berkeley. What was it that you were looking for in the next steps of your career? Had you thought about, well, I could, keep it general with an MBA, or more specialized with data analytics? What was the attraction of the MSBA?
Well, thank you, Matt. That's a great question. So where I was, so as you mentioned, my background is very STEM heavy, right? I have an undergrad in STEM. I have research experience in genetics for over 2 years. And basically, I think it's mostly the program, right? When we're thinking about the next steps in our career, I was just obviously I love science and I was looking for a way to complete that background, right? And the MSBA program was just at UC Davis was just perfect for that. The location, right? Already lived in the Bay Area for almost 6 years at that point. So obviously going to San Francisco was very attractive. The time frame, right? As you mentioned, when we go back to school, how long we're going to be in school is a big question. And the MSBA program being 1 year definitely was a big deal, all right? And and the curriculum, as I said, like really completes my background, I feel like, to really get into the industries I'm interested in. So yeah, for these reasons, I think for these reasons, I wanted to pursue the program.
And they pack a lot in to the year program. Tell us a little bit about the course, both core curriculum, how you can then personalize it with different courses. Maybe even some of the did you need to know coding, or was that something that you were able to pick up at the start of the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So far, so obviously we're in a quarter system, not a semester system. So we start with the summer quarter, which is 6 weeks. Now we're in the fall quarter, which is 10 weeks. So far, the curriculum has been pretty statistics heavy with emphasis on coding R, and now we're diving into SQL. Personally, I would think the program it is very technical and it is a lot of work, right? But I think the professors and the coursework is kind of tailored, sorry, for people with different backgrounds, such as myself, to pick it up as we go, right? I'm not gonna say it is easy. It is a lot of work, right? But it is possible for sure. Yeah.
If you were to go back to day one and already the intensity of the program, what advice would you give to yourself in terms of, because of course there's all the coursework to keep you very busy, but then there's San Francisco and classmates and having fun too. So how do you find that sort of study and life balance through the year?
Well, it's definitely obviously it's a challenge with everything. When we have a job, when we go to school, some people do both. I know at the program, but I think having a routine, right? Which every day we know we're going to do this at this hour. We have a detailed schedule. I think really has been helping me having both sides, right? Having a life outside of the program, but also really doing everything I can to take the most out of the program and give the most to the program, right? And meeting as many people as I can while I'm there, while I'm in class, or yeah, being on top of the lectures, on top of my coursework, all of that. Yeah.
Now, Davis MSBA graduates, Eric, they're highly sought after, whether it's the big four or a big tech firm.
Yep.
What sort of feedback do you get from employers to say, not just they've got the skills that we need for our industry challenges, but also perhaps the mindset,
Yeah.
even the creativity and the curiosity, for this to work so well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of feedback from our employers, but just as much feedback from our alumni. We're very, very close with our alumni, and our alumni a lot tend to stay in San Francisco. I mean, obviously they branch out and they go to Texas and they go to the Northeast. But even when they do leave or they do go to other states, we're very, very close, and we're always asking the feedback. So we have a dedicated career team that also works hand in hand with our practicum partners. So we have a practicum project, which is a year-long program. And it's where we source outside companies and we bring them in, and our students are grouped into groups of 4 or 5. And they work throughout the year. So they start in this first summer session and they work throughout the whole year, working hands-on. They have their product manager or project manager on the company side. They have our faculty on our side. And it's a great way for our students to gain technical analytical skills while they're in the program. And it's something that our alumni and even our industry partners, or our corporate partners, where our jobs are, where we have great relationships and our students have gotten jobs, that's the feedback they've gotten. Is our students they come in very highly skilled but also polished. It's not just data, it's data in a real world. How does this, okay, I have this data set, or I have this data, how do I connect it with this business problem? And I think that's where really what the practicum fills in. From our students, about a third of our students don't have work experience. About 2/3 of our students have about 2 to 5 years work experience. So it's a nice blend for our students to be able to, for our students who maybe don't have work experience, or students who maybe do, but lighter on the analytics experience. It's allow them to gain what they're learning in class and really apply it in real world scenarios in an actual business setting with a real world company who's having this current issue. So I think that's one of the biggest feedbacks, and it is from our alumni too, of how much they come prepared, of not just being in the classroom, but actually being able to function as a data analyst or a data scientist when they graduate. So I think that's one of the biggest things, and one of the things that helps drive our program. And obviously our students are able to get the jobs that they're able to get with the salaries they're able to get, which helps obviously with the ROI from our program.
Sure. Henri, from what Eric is describing, and of course I look at the image behind him of a very famous bridge in the Bay Area, there's companies often have no shortage of data, but it's building that bridge and connecting it to then solve a problem. So is that then drawing on skills beyond analytics, almost storytelling, or what lies behind the data and the ability to tease that out and share it and see its impact? So beyond the analytics, are you also, do you need to show a level of creativity and agility to really understand data and its impact?
Yeah, no, totally. I think the job is evolving, obviously, with the emergence of AI and all of these tools. It's about leveraging these tools, and the analysts are more and more telling the stories behind the data, right? That's what's being more and more asked, because that's the human aspect of all of it, right? And it's really, I totally agree that it's obviously really important to be able to tell all of that. And I think when it comes to the program, I think we're definitely being well trained to do all of this. This quarter, for example, we're taking a class with Professor Palazzolo, which is all about this, right? Which is all about, it's important to know how to treat the data, right? But it's even more important to analyze it and tell the story behind the data, right? So obviously it's really important to be able to do that. Yeah.
Right. And Eric, I suppose based on that, and with the practicum, the corporate
Yep.
sponsors and the faculty constantly acting as advisors in all of this, are you then thinking, well, you might be presenting this to a client, you might be presenting this to the C-suite, and therefore other not intangible skills, but the confidence to stand up in a room and share the stories behind the data. So you're also thinking about students and how they can best operate in those different environments.
Yeah, I mean, our objective with this program is to not only do everything we can to make sure they succeed while they're in the program, but succeed out when they leave the program, and not just right after. I mean, maybe the second, third job after. And that's what we're trying to do. And we tell our students, and I even tell our students, one of the things for me is I always get very nervous when I speak. I've been doing this for over 10 years, spoke to hundreds of audiences, but storytelling is not easy, and it's something that you need to work at. And presenting and speaking publicly is not easy for a lot of people. And so we want to help prepare our students. So our students are doing presentations both inside the classroom. We have a practicum class that goes along with the practicum project, but also we have a hackathon, and we bring in outside industry sponsors as well. And those students are presenting, and we encourage, and our faculty are there to help students with other either hackathons that are outside of our program, sorry, our program, or also like the Adobe Analytics Challenge, where it's a huge worldwide challenge. And our faculty, our students are paired with a faculty advisor that in turn go on and help them with the challenge, right? And it's about storytelling, it's about presenting. It's not necessarily about the data, because they're taught that, and their students can grab the data. And I think this is true in the real world as well, right? We can grab the data. We have a number of different sources now on how to grab the data, but how do you present the data? How do you interpret the data? How do you tell that story, or further along that objective with the data? And I think that's what we're really trying to prepare our students for when they leave the classroom as well.
Yeah, I had to smile at the beginning because you are a wonderful public speaker, and the lovely humility to say, hey, I still get nervous before I stand up. Now, with the Career Management Center, Henri, that Eric was describing, because you could take these skill sets, you talked about your genetics research background. How have you then worked with the Career Center to think about your next steps of the career? And as Eric said, not just that first job out of the MSBA program, but the next 5, 10 years of your career.
So when it comes to the Career Center and the conversations, obviously it's a very great tool that we have at the program, and I think students use it a lot because it helps us brainstorm and know where we're going with our career better. In my case, I'm gonna have at the end of my master's degree, right? I'm gonna have on one end the analytics degree, right? And on the other hand, all my STEM background. So in my vision would be to combine those two, right? Use one to strengthen the other and the other way around, right? So definitely this is one big point that is commonly when I talk to the wonderful people at the Career Center. This is definitely something that I emphasize, and there obviously we're looking at different path because there are multiple ways to do that for me, and yeah, very excited about it, and yeah.
You'd mentioned, Henri, AI, which of course in the past 2-3 years, a constant sense of the impact that it will have. Is it that the skills that you're learning, that you feel confident you'll be able to adapt as AI and analytics continue to move forward at an incredibly fast pace, but you've got a background that will enable you to then be fairly agile and adapt to the next big thing in AI and where that takes industries?
Yeah, I do think so. I think research is obviously a very tedious, and there's a method to it. I think this type of education, or as we say, just experience, is extremely valuable, at least in my opinion. But obviously AI will get better at this too, right? So it is important to stay ahead of the curve, right? Definitely be able to bring that experience and give insight wherever we can, right? Use my STEM background to tell analytic stories when both can be combined, right? So yeah.
And presumably, Eric, people, candidates are viewers watching this from all over the world, and they're thinking about the next steps in their career. Now, they might not have R or SQL and the coding skills that Henri is now developing. So what advice do you give them to say, hey, this is a program that's probably more accessible than people realize, but there is a bar. There are certain core skills that we'd like to see. So keep that passion, keep that interest, and this is how the program might be able to match it.
Yeah, I mean, so we're actually having active discussions now, and how can we bring in students from a wider ranges of backgrounds for cohorts coming in, because what we see is that this is not going to stop, right? And more and more people are going to need to be skilled in these areas. So we're having discussions now as what kind of resources can we provide? How can we tell that student who may be wanting to self-select out of saying, hey, you know what, that looks great, I would love to do this, but I don't necessarily have this background, and I don't even know where to start. I would say the first place to start is attending one of our info sessions or reaching out to our team in general. And I'll leave our contact information before we leave here. But we also have student workers, our graduate student analysts, who are reaching out to their current students in our program, and they're reaching out to applicants as well. So I would encourage anybody who's thinking about this and who may not have the background that they think may qualify for this, is reach out to our team first, have a discussion with us, As far as myself, our deputy director of admissions, John Lyon, we can kind of give you the bigger picture. We're always happy to jump on Zoom and kind of one-on-one speak to you about your background, where you are academically, and in how this all fits into our program. And then after you're done speaking to us, go speak to one of our students, because they're the ones who are where you want to be, and they were where you are. And so they can give you the direct experience, the apples to apples of, this is why I came, this is what I'm learning, this is why I'm here, this is what I love about it, and really kind of give you their experience in the classroom as well. But yeah, we are thinking now of, like I said, of different resources for those students who may not be as quantitatively inclined. What we do say is this. I get that question all the time, is what should I do to prepare before I come in? And usually what I say is, you can go on edX, you can go on a Coursera, or if your school provides, free, or auditing classes, is if you don't feel your quant skills, or it's been a while since you've taken a math class, brush up on those. If you feel okay about your quantitative skills, but still a little nervous, take a Coursera and edX class in R or Python, or even SQL. And it doesn't need to be anything high level, just to kind of give you a baseline knowledge of it. And then we can teach that going forward. But sometimes it makes our students feel better just knowing that they're not going to come into this blind. Even though we will, help prepare them and teach them those skills. But just to have the confidence going in of, hey, I've seen this before. I at least have a basic understanding of it, and I have a baseline knowledge, and really kind of a foundation.
Yeah.
But come speak to us.
You've been in the Bay Area now 6 years, but others might be discovering San Francisco and the Bay Area with the UC Davis program. What difference does it make, a location that is at the center of innovation and the future of tech and AI and so many different aspects? How does that, both in courses and perhaps corporate connections that it makes, but just living in the city and the heartbeat that San Francisco and the Bay Area generates?
Right. I think it's just the culture, right? I feel like in San Francisco you have a lot of people, most people, I would say a lot of people obviously have a connection to tech to some way or another, right? The amount there's so many events, right, where we can meet people that do any type of thing for tech companies. It can be finance, it can be more technical, it can be sales, but there's so many people to meet everywhere in the city, and I think that environment um, really helps people that live in the city um, have um, have some sort of tech mindset. Sorry for lack of better words, but it is how it feels like here, and it's great.
And presumably a lot of fun too. Do you get time outside of the courses to make the most of the city?
Yeah. So I've been knowing the city a little bit. So I don't I'm kind of past the point of just like going anywhere. But the city, obviously I fell in love with the city, love the city. And every time I have time, I can go to Dolores Park, I can go to Golden Gate Park, which are my favorite parks in the city, to unwind. But with everything going on in the program and everything, I've been being kept pretty busy, so I've definitely been focused on that. Yeah.
If I was going to sit down, Eric, with alums that are, I don't know, 3, 5 years out of the program, and they reflect on, the investment that they made, and how that's, really boosted new doors that it's opened and career opportunity. What do they often share about the program and about Davis, and that sense of, we're alum? You said it was very student centric, and therefore, really belonging to that community.
I think they would say, we have a saying in good graduate business school, not a saying, we call it the 4 C's: community, care, curriculum, and careers, right? And I think our alums would say we really walk all 4, and especially the community and the care part as well. Us being in San Francisco and not being on main campus, we try our best to create as much community as possible for our students, because it's important to have, it's important to build. And on top of that, I think they would also share, kind of the innovation of the program. in how we are not only innovating, but we're making sure that we're still innovating not only with our current students, but providing our alumni with those resources as well. So we started EOS. Our Dean Unova started EOS, which is giving our alumni access to edX courses at a discounted rate. Also coming back in, auditing classes within our programs, whether MBA, MSBA, because our thought is once our ROI just doesn't stop at how quickly it takes for you to repay your student loans. Our ROI also includes, how can we provide you value going forward after you've left the program? And one of those is EOS, right? We're providing you the ability to come back and skill up, especially if you get to a certain point in your career and you're like, well, that wasn't offered when I was in this program, but now I can come back and I can audit it with this professor I've taken or this new professor, and this is what research that they're doing. So I think that's really what they would sing is not only are we community focused and we very much walk our 4 C's, but we're constantly trying to innovate into providing that value add just beyond the tuition amount that you're going to repay or the loan amount you're going to repay and the skills that we're trying to give you when you leave the program. And also, we've had, unfortunately, some of our alumni get laid off and they know they have lifetime career services. So they come back to us. We match them. We see what jobs we have that would fit within, their skill sets, or match them up with other alumni who can give them a referral. And we've been fortunate to have those alumni who have gotten laid off come and go into the job market and then quickly get back into a job. So again, just providing that value of once you leave the program, we are the MSBA family, and we very much mean family when we say family. And just because you're out of sight does not mean you're out of mind. And we're always a phone call, email, or text message away.
Right. And among those alums, Eric, a mix, Henri, a year out of undergrad and starting his MSBA. Are there others that are perhaps, in their later 20s or even older? Is there a particular sweet spot, or it's very diverse?
It's very diverse. So we'll kind of have students on one end that'll be lighter in work experience, and students on the other end who have maybe like 8 to 9 years work experience. And I would say kind of our median is anywhere between, I would say 2 and 5 or 3 and 5 years work experience. So they're kind of all, as far as the age range, everything from early to mid 20s all the way to like mid 30s, and on sometimes. We are now seeing applicants that are coming that have already had an MBA and have been working and have come back to skill up. So that'll skew, our age and our demographic a little bit older as well. But I think it's just a product of kind of the time we're in, and how technology is, to both of your points, and how technology is advancing and how quickly it is, and how we need to skill up and to make sure that we're staying on the curve or ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Now, Henri, you took that step. You made that investment in yourself, to go back to business school. Our viewers, are thinking, is this the right time? I'm not sure there's ever a right time, but what words of encouragement would you give to anybody about making that investment in yourself, heading back to school, and a program like the MSBA?
I think it's a great question. I just think it's mostly about the vision that you have for your career, right? What is the program going to bring to your background already, right? Obviously, when we want to get into industry, we want to get into tech, or any other industry like finance, and we do not have that background, right? Getting to a program that's going to help us get there. That's the main thing, right? For me, for example, pursuing the MSBA is going to, I believe, complement my background really well, right? And give me a career opportunities that I'm really looking forward to. This is the reason why I took that step, right? Mainly because I want to get somewhere, and I believe the MSBA is that bridge that's going to get me there, right? So yeah, so that's part of the reason why I applied, and thankfully I got in and definitely said yes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, both of you, with what you're describing, I can imagine viewers, their enthusiasm. If you can have a caring community, a really impactful and cutting edge curriculum, and the career outcomes that the graduates are enjoying. So, Eric, next steps, if viewers want to reach out, info sessions, start maybe with the website, what would you recommend?
I would say start with the website, because a lot of maybe their questions, or they can at least get a background knowledge, and maybe steer their questions into more specific questions instead of general questions. And that I think is really the most helpful. And so start with the website, and then I say after that, reach out to us, reach out to myself, reach out to our team. We're happy to jump on Zoom sessions. We're happy to connect you with current students in the program. But yeah, I would say first steps, look at the website, and then after that, reach out to us. We're here, and we're always happy to help.
Well, we were delighted to have you here with us at Centre Court. Our hope is, for viewers from all over the world to look at that bridge and say one day that could be the view from
Yes.
my office too, and building bridges in their career across business and data analytics. So, Henri, thank you. It was, I know how busy you are with your courses. Thank you for making the time. Eric, it was a pleasure to have you with us at Centre Court. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you so much.
so
It's a
much.
pleasure to be here.